Welcome to this episode of the Heartbeat for Hire podcast. I feature Olympians, CEOs, disruptors, authors, professional athletes, and the best of the best, where they share their stories of resilience with my lens on leadership and culture. Let's get started. Greetings and welcome to this episode of the Heartbeat for Hire podcast. I am so thrilled to bring my guest to you today. 3 things you're going to learn from this episode. Number 1, how hope can emerge even from the most devastating tragedy. Number 2, what you need to be doing if you're feeling suicidal. And number 3, what National Resilience Day is. Please welcome to the show my dear friend, Kristen Christy. Kristen is a stroke survivor, a world-class athlete, an absolute inspiration, a suicide prevention expert, a military wife, a TEDx speaker, the co-creator of the National Suicide Hotline 988, and an all-around incredible human. I am so happy to bring her to the show today. Welcome to the show, Kristen.
Thank you, Lindsay. It's so good to see you. Thank you for this opportunity.
Oh my gosh, I could not wait to tell your story. When we met, we were like a house on fire, and I was just like, this is just an absolutely beautiful human. So, would you do us the kindness and just share a little of your background?
You bet. I was not always Kristen Christy. Tongue twister, right? Married into that one. I grew up in the Air Force all over the world. We moved every 2 years. Loved it. I loved it more than my introverted brother. I will tell you, I'm an uber extrovert. I can suck the air right out of an introvert's lungs if I'm not careful. I try and temper that. But as you mentioned, I was a world-class athlete in tennis and golf in high school and had all these great plans, right, to go to college on scholarship and go on the pro circuit. And I was blessed enough to be able to choose between tennis and golf. And 9 days before my 16th birthday, we were living in Germany and I experienced a massive stroke. I was born with a malformed vein. They call it an AVM, arterial venous
Yeah.
malformation, the very center of my brain, and completely paralyzed. The prognosis was if I lived,
Oh my
I
God.
would never walk again and
Mm.
probably have brain damage. And we learned some really important lessons during that time. I had brain surgery. They sent me to San Antonio to the big Air Force hospital in San Antonio, where we had lived before, and we had been embedded in our community there.
Mm.
And because we were embedded years before, we had a support group in San Antonio as well as our support group in Germany, and had went through a 9 hour brain surgery, still paralyzed. The prognosis was I would live, but most likely would not walk again. And
Mm.
after being a world-class athlete, I had misplaced my identity. My identity had been
First.
placed in what I did.
That's right.
And one of the lessons I learned during that time is your identity is not based on what you do, but who you are.
Yeah.
Because I had to find new avenues for my talents. It took me a year and a half to walk again. I write with my left hand now because my right still doesn't work very
So do
well.
I. Welcome to the
Yeah.
club.
Okay, good. Those southpaws got over here as soon as I could. And realize that because our identity really isn't who we are, our character, it was easier for me to find new avenues for my talents.
Mhm.
But I didn't do it alone. It was the superpower of community. That was the other lesson. To get embedded in our community, which my parents taught us growing up, we got embedded in the community no matter how long we were going to live there.
Yeah.
And it was for us, but it was also for the community,
Yeah.
to be good community members and stewards. Um, and so my scholarships for sports were taken away. I did get a scholarship to the University of Texas at Austin because I was quote unquote handicapped. It
Mm.
was through the Texas Rehabilitation Commission, but I needed to find my community on this huge campus,
But
and my community was at the ROTC building
Mhm.
because I spoke the military language. I couldn't raise my right hand to take the oath of service, but um, and so it was no surprise when I was attracted to someone in ROTC, in Air Force
Mhm.
ROTC. We ended up we met at a party, And he was the only person at the party I didn't know. Now, Lyndsay, I told you I'm an uber extrovert. So I had to go,
That's a puzzle you need to solve.
yeah, I needed to go up and meet him. I said, "Hi, I'm Kristen Anderson." He said, "Hi, I'm Don Christie. We can never get married." And I'm like, what kind of pickup line is that?
Right.
Well, one of the other things I grew up with is if you don't ask, the answer is no.
Mhm.
If you ask, you have a chance. If you have a chance, take it. And if it changes your life, let it. So also, no stands for, or don't take no for an answer. And so I asked him, I said, why? And he goes, you would be Kristen Christy.
Hmm.
5 months
Here we
later,
are. And here
I
we
had
are.
the ring on my finger. Um, and so we got married right after he was commissioned as a second lieutenant in the Air Force, went to Grand Forks, North Dakota, started our family with our oldest son, Ryan, and then moved to Colorado Springs, where I'm located now.
Mhm.
And Don's career was going off like gangbusters. He was on a great trajectory. He was deployed in 2004 to Baghdad for 4.5 months. And he came back different. We hear that a lot in the military community. And he ended up taking his life in 2008, 3 days before he pinned on colonel in the Air Force. Our sons were 12 and 14.
Terribly.
And I
Not that any age is
remember
good, but
after I had to tell them a question I will never, ever have an answer to. But they asked, Mom, why didn't he love us enough?
oh,
And
tough.
that started my trajectory on what I do now. Um, Now, I will say that I lived with the shame and guilt of his suicide,
Yeah.
trying to help the boys as much as I could. Our oldest son, Ryan, was diagnosed with bipolar
Mhm.
about a year after Don's suicide. And Ryan has been missing for over 9.5 years.
Oh,
Um, Ben, our youngest, who was 12 at the time, on his 20th birthday, 8 years later, he attempted suicide. And research indicates, Lyndsay, that family members who lose someone by suicide are more likely to
yep.
attempt.
I've
Both
seen
of
that.
my kids have, but I have a voicemail from Ben the night he attempted suicide. He was at the University of Arizona in Tucson. I was here in Colorado Springs. Um, to hear this young man weeping, sobbing, the abandonment in his voice.
Mm.
He allowed me to record it. He left me a voicemail. It was 1:30 in the morning. I didn't answer. He allowed me to record it. And now, as I'm a speaker, I got over the shame and the guilt.
Yeah.
There's no place in this itty bitty shitty committee between my ears, right? For shame and guilt for
No,
anybody.
no.
And guilt was misplaced. It was really regret. I
Yeah.
did the best that I could with the tools that I had
Everybody
at
does.
the time.
Yeah.
At the time. And now I have a pretty darn big tool belt
Right.
with a lot of resources to help bring hope to people who feel hopeless,
Yeah.
who are sitting in the darkness of that despair. Um,
And
my son Ben left that voicemail 9 years ago. Today he's married. They're expecting their first child in April. The Department of Defense is paying for his master's degree in aerospace engineering.
amazing.
He owns a house at 29 years old in California. I
Oh
mean,
my
he is
God.
living his best life.
It's
And
so
it was
good.
because the superpower of community, his fraternity brothers came alongside of him, got him the help that he needed. They came alongside of me
Yeah.
because we were embedded in that community.
Oh my God. There is so much you just said that I want to dive in on. First, I want to just talk for a moment about community because I think the biggest, you tell me because you're the expert, but the biggest offender and the reason that people disconnect is loneliness and they don't feel seen. And community has completely changed my life. Anybody that listens to this show knows how I feel about the Outlier Project, of which you are a member.
Yes, yes.
Um, so, can we talk a little bit about community and just why that's so important?
Yeah, we as human beings, we want a sense of belonging.
Right.
we can't belong to something if we're by ourselves, right? It takes more than one person to have a community.
Yeah.
Now, for an uber extrovert like me, I have a lot of people in my community. I have a lot of different communities
Yep.
too, the military spouse community, the military community, the Colorado Springs community,
Yeah.
the national community. We all have different communities. And so whatever your community is, or any of your listeners' communities are, think of that as community. It doesn't have to be big. It has to be with people that you have something in common with.
Yeah.
It really, truly needs to be with people who will lift you up.
They want to see you win. Yeah.
Yes, they
And
are
there's
your
different
biggest
communities for
cheerleaders.
different purposes too. I think
Yes,
that's the other thing you need to remember. One community does not need to solve all of your stuff. It's you can glean different things from different populations of people, but the important thing is to reach out and to connect and to feed
yes.
your soul with the people who want to see you win. So I
Yeah.
love that.
And we talk about we laugh together, right?
Yeah.
But when we cry, we want to cry alone. And that is the least likely time that we need to be alone.
Yeah.
We need to find that trusted agent, that trusted friend or family member that you can go to with good news, and they're going to celebrate with
Yeah.
you like it's happening to
Yeah.
them. But you also know that you can go to them with not so good news,
That's right.
and they aren't going to try and fix it,
That's the
right? And
thing.
try and
Like,
say
let
stuff to
people
make it
cry.
better.
Let
Yeah.
them cry.
Sit
It's
in the darkness in that pit with them so they aren't alone. I think also as human beings, we want to feel protected, respected, and connected,
oh, so good. So
right?
true.
We want to be connected. We want to be respected in that community, and we want to feel protected, a safe place.
Yeah.
Um, we talk about hope. I'm writing a book on acronyms right now because
Yes. Talk
in the
about that.
military, we're really good at acronyms. Like one of them is WTF. So I called my aunt, my 92-year-old aunt, or I texted her the weekend Ben was graduating from college. And I said, Ben is graduating from college. And she responded, WTF. And I'm like, Aunt Joyce, what
Really?
does WTF stand for? And she
The
said,
reaction I was
wow, that's
expecting.
fantastic. So it's that mindset change, right? But hope stands for hold on, pain eases.
Yeah.
That E does not stand for end.
Yeah.
We've all been through a 10 out of 10 on the pain scale.
Oh, yeah.
It ebbs and flows,
Yeah.
right? I'll hear our wedding song and the waterworks start,
Of course.
you know. But it also stands for help one person every day.
Love
When
that.
you need to get outside of your own circumstances, get into your community. Lift someone else up because it's going to lift you up.
Yeah. I agree. That's how I live. And I think for anybody that is struggling or you're having a bad day, I give two bits of advice. First, if you're having a bad day, it's okay. Wallow. It's okay to be sad. It's okay to cry. It's okay to feel dark and stormy and gloomy and all the things because tomorrow's a new day. So get it out. Do whatever you got to do. Go cry in the car, do talk to a friend, whatever. It's going to pass. But I'm never going to tell you don't cry
Right.
because that's
You got to
important.
feel the
You got to
feelings.
feel the pain. You got to process the pain. And the other
Yep.
thing I tell them is reach out to people, start lifting others up, write a LinkedIn recommendation from somebody who inspired you and someone you worked with. Like that makes somebody else feel good, which is going to shift your mood. So
Absolutely.
I love that.
And I remember in second grade, my teacher pulled up one of those preschool chairs, the short little chairs up to the wall, and she called Billy, who was our biggest student, up and said, Billy, I want you to stand on the chair. She called Sally up, who was our petitest student. Notice I didn't say Kristen, but Sally. And she said, Sally, stand with your back to Billy. And Billy, I want you to lift Sally up. And Billy put his hands under her armpits and couldn't lift her up. And
Mm-mm.
of course, we're second graders, we're snickering. I kind of feel bad about that. But
Yeah.
she said, Sally, turn around and pull Billy down. And she pulled Billy down right away. And the moral of that exercise, what is it is so much easier to pull someone down emotionally
Yeah.
than it is to lift them up.
Mm.
So for those who come alongside and want to lift people up, we've all experienced this where there are some people who just don't want to be lifted up.
No.
And that's another acronym for me is JOMO.
Mm.
Y'all know FOMO, fear of missing out. JOMO is joy of missing out.
Mm.
And sometimes if you find that someone that you are trying to lift up is just bringing you down over and over and over, you've tried your
Yeah.
best.
Move on.
I want to encourage people that maybe you aren't the person that the universe or God brought into that person's life to lift them up.
Yeah.
And it's okay to release them,
Yeah.
right? We try, we do our best.
Yeah.
We forgive ourselves for what we do while trying to survive. But we do our best with the tools that we have.
Yeah.
And so I want your listeners, I want to encourage them that it's okay to try your best with someone, but if you find that they are bringing you down, it's okay.
Yeah.
And just release them and let someone else help them.
So, one thing I love about you is you take action, and you had this enormous weight of negative life events that really could have turned you into anything but who you became. And one of the things you did, which I was so proud of, because I'll tell you about why in a second, but Kristen created the National Suicide Hotline, which is 988. And I used to drive my kids to school. They now have their license. But when I was driving them to school, we passed the 988 sign on the corner. And I said, "You guys, I know her." And they're like, "What?" I said, "The woman who created that. I know her. She's my friend." And they go, "Oh, she must be loaded." I'm like, "That's what you take away from this?" I'm like, 10-year-olds.
I
Anyway,
wish.
yeah. So can you please talk about how
Yeah.
you did this, why you did this, and what it is, and how people can leverage it?
Yeah, it's 3 o'clock in the morning in 2010. Dealing still with the shame and the guilt, and some days I wouldn't get up and take my kids to school,
Yeah.
and that's when my community would come and not take my kids to school, but they got my butt out of bed
Yep.
to take my kids to school. And I woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning one morning, and I said, "We have 911." And this is when my oldest son was going through his bipolar, and I said, "Why don't we have a 3-digit number for the suicide lifeline?"
Yeah.
Because I didn't know about it. I didn't know the number before Don died. And
Mm.
then, of course, my whole world turned into suicide prevention. So I started socializing it locally in Colorado Springs and then at the state level, because the beauty of networking, right? When you talk about things, people are going to listen. They're going to say, "I may not be able to help you, but I have a friend here." And Lyndsay, you are the queen of connections of doing that. um, and pretty soon it got higher up to Capitol Hill. I didn't know what the number was I just said a 3-digit number.
Right.
And so it was a team. I'm a co-creator of 988.
Mhm.
And then it was, I kind of released it to the people in the know. I mean, it was going to have to work with the FCC and the
Sure.
FTC and all these acronyms and then it came full circle back around when my senator, Cory Gardner, in the state of Colorado, um, he came to me, his staff came to me and said, "Hey, we've got 988." And I'm like, "What's 988?" And they said, "It's the 3-digit suicide lifeline." They wanted a number away from one so
Right.
people wouldn't fat finger.
Yeah.
Plus, it was an area code. It
Yeah.
was a area code for a small area. And so it was signed as an executive order in 2020. It went active July 16th of 2022. In 2 years since it was activated, they have answered 10 million calls
Oh,
and text
goosebumps.
messages. So 988 is available nationwide. It's also available nationwide in Canada.
Oh my gosh.
And it's available at military installations overseas. So it is global.
That's
When
amazing.
you dial 988, you will receive some prompts Dial 1 if you're a veteran or military member or family member, and you reach the Veteran Crisis Line, which is manned by trained professionals who have a cultural understanding
Yeah.
of the military.
Wow.
Dial 2 for Spanish speakers, 3 for the LGBTQ community. I
Oh,
believe the Trevor Project
yeah.
answers that line. And 4, just in Washington State right now, 4 is for the indigenous community. So we're
Wow.
trying to get it in Oklahoma and South Dakota
Yeah, of
and New
course.
Mexico, those with Alaska. Again, it's that cultural understanding
Yep.
of some of the dark places that are culturally relevant.
Yeah. I
Right now
mean,
it's geo routed. So I have a Colorado area code.
right.
If I were in Oklahoma and I called 988, I would reach the Colorado crisis line.
Yep.
We are trying to get it geolocated like 911 is.
Yeah.
So if I'm
Yeah.
in Oklahoma and I call from my cell phone, it goes to the Oklahoma crisis line. So
I had
it's
no
out there. I want
idea.
people to use it. You can text to it, you can call it. There's a chat line. It
Amazing.
is available to you when you're in crisis and to you when you're calling for a friend and really mean it
I
because
love
they
that you said that,
knows.
Kristen, because we just recently lost a friend and neighbor, and this is a guy who was very public with his pictures of his family. It was a like a true Brady Bunch blended family of three and
Mhm,
three kids, and he was very proud of them. And just the night before, it was a big family picture at the Bruins game, and he succumbed to suicide the next day. And nobody can make sense of it. Nobody can understand. But had somebody had any knowledge, we could have called on his behalf. And
mhm.
I think that's really important because so often, when something's wrong with someone,
Yeah,
um, but have a voice and don't be afraid to use it because that
right.
call could change everything.
Yeah, in the military we have an acronym ACE,
Yeah.
Ask, Care, Escort. Ask them straight up. If someone who's usually a Tigger is having an EOR day, we all have EOR days,
Sure.
right? But it's extended, and your gut, your heart, your head is
Everything
telling you
feels wrong.
something is wrong.
Yeah.
If you go ask them, are you thinking of suicide? You aren't putting it in their head for the first time
No.
because your instinct has told you to ask that question.
Yep.
I would much rather go to Don 17 years ago and ask him that question than
Sure.
to have our 14-year-old read the eulogy at his funeral.
Of course. Oh my God.
And then you care for them.
Oof.
You don't have to make it better. You don't have to say anything to make it. Just sit with them,
Yep.
be with them, and then escort them. Call 988 for them.
Yep.
Call another friend. You don't have to do it by yourself.
Nope.
And
And
do
you'd
it that way.
rather them be upset with you
Yes,
than
because
not
you
have them be here.
exactly, Lindsay, because you know you have hit a nerve if they're upset with you,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Another acronym is FINE. Feelings inside not expressed.
Mhm.
And you hit the nail on the head. Feel those feelings. You don't have to be strong for your kids. Your
Yep.
kids need to know. My kids needed to know I miss their dad just as much as they did.
Sure. You're not
You know,
bulletproof. You
no.
you feel
And
it.
then you bounce back.
Yep.
Number 2, bounce back. But I think of Bozo the Clown, we blew him up and he had sand in the bottom and we would
Oh,
hit
sure.
him and he
Mhm.
would bounce back, but he's in the same place. Don't be in the same place. Bounce back and then march forth.
That's right.
Get your community around you. More importantly, I think when we are in a depression or in crisis, we aren't thinking about reaching out.
No.
It's those of us in a good place who notice
Yeah,
to reach out,
that's
right? I
right.
think we're talking about, yes, ask for help. More importantly, I want you to offer help
Yep.
when you realize that someone that you care about is in
And don't mistake that for what can I do? Just do something. Just
right.
show up. Because
Yes,
here's the thing. That question, while well-intentioned, it makes the person who needs the help have to work.
right.
So don't ask that.
Yep.
Say, I'm bringing you dinner, or
Yep.
I'm taking you for a pedicure, or
Yep.
we're going for a walk,
I'm
or
mowing
we're
your
gonna go
lawn,
pet
right?
puppies,
Yeah.
whatever. Like,
Whatever you feel
do
comfortable doing.
something. Don't ask
Whatever,
them what you
yep,
need to do because that's,
whatever you feel comfortable doing. Exactly.
yeah,
It's show up, it's do something, not say something.
that's right.
I had two conversations that I remember that night when our house was filled up after we were notified. Both from friends from church. One woman came up, gave me a hug, and said, "He's in a better place."
Oh,
In the rawness of that moment,
oh,
I said, "Why isn't the better place at home?
here, right.
At the dining room table?" We know what she meant,
Yeah,
right?
she had good intentions, but that's a lousy thing to say.
But, and she felt like she needed to say something.
Yeah,
Another friend came up and gave me a hug and said, "Kristen, I have no words for you." Which would you
nothing,
rather hear at a
nothing.
10 out of 10, right?
Kim,
I
nothing.
have no words for you, but she gives me a hug and she's there.
Yeah,
So show up, do something, and be intentional.
yeah.
Reach out to people, not just on milestones or, every morning I text two people randomly. I've texted my plumber before.
Yeah.
um, just from my contacts, I text them and I say, "Hey, I'm thinking of you today."
Yeah.
It's
That
random.
means so much to people. It really does. And, you know, if you're like me, you're pretty psychically in tune to your best friends. And so they tell you, oh, you've been on my, something's going on with you, isn't it? And
Yep.
they know,
Yep.
they know. Uh,
Yep. Absolutely. But
yeah,
it also lifts me up. It's a great way to start my day.
I know. I love that.
And it's not necessarily starting a conversation. I've had people like during my workshops or presentations, I say, "I want you before you go to bed tonight to text one person."
Yeah.
You don't have to start a conversation, but so many people say, "I don't have time. I don't have time to really
You
be
have time
present
for
for them."
you to write a 6 second thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
You
Or
were
you
on
can
my
voice
mind
text it.
today.
That's even shorter.
Yeah. Or
So
what made you smile yesterday, right? Sometimes we have to really think about what made us smile.
I know. I know.
Um,
All right. So let's
yeah.
talk about National Resilience Day. What is it? What's it for? What's it celebrating? I mean, this whole show is about resilience. So you know I love
Yeah.
this topic, and we have a
Yeah.
whole day. Tell us, what is it?
Yeah, so I created this day just as a mindset change, again, from the shame and the guilt and the woe is me. But we are all survivors of something. We have
Right.
all overcome something. And
100%.
so as I'm looking through the National Day calendar, National Ice Cream Day, which is one of my favorite days, another acronym, my size is TLC, thick like cheesecake. You know? Um, but I noticed we didn't really have a Survivors Day. We have October is Breast Cancer
Sure.
Awareness Month and all, but not a Survivors Day or a Resilience Day. And so I created National Resilience Day. It's on March 4th because we march forth
I
and
love it.
conquer
I
our
love it.
insecurities and our disappointments and our adversities and the stinking thinking from the itty bitty shitty committee between our ears, right? Our self-limiting beliefs.
Mhm.
And it's truly a mindset. I want people to wake up on March 4th and say, and really reflect on what they have survived and how they're thriving, even if they don't feel like they're thriving right now, to really concentrate. It's like that question, what made you smile yesterday? We have to really concentrate on it. But there are pieces of us that are thriving, whether we know it or not.
Yeah.
And, there's a saying, life is a tough teacher. We get the test first and then learn the lesson. The athlete Vernon Law has that saying, and I love that saying because I've learned tough lessons through my tests,
Mhm.
but now I can tutor other people through their lessons.
Yeah.
It's that hope, that help
Mm,
one person every day. So this year, March 4th, I want your listeners to remember it's National Resilience Day.
amazing.
Do something kind for someone else. Just be kind. Um, really reach out to people that I've had this feeling that something's going on with this person. They
Mhm.
may not completely open up to you,
Yep.
but just the fact that you came to them and asked, you see them as a human being,
Yep.
not just as, a person out there,
I
but
agree.
truly you see their identity as a human being.
I love it.
So I've tried to get it as an executive order, came really close in 2020, but we all know what was going on in 2020,
Yes.
even
That we
before
were
we
a
knew
little
about it.
busy with other things.
Um,
Well,
so
that's okay. We will celebrate it widely
yeah,
from
yeah,
at least from the listeners from this show.
yeah.
Um, So shifting gears, what inspires you?
I think people, people inspire me. Um, we ha People have so many ideas and they contribute to my well-being. That's what helps me get out of bed and to be an emotional support human for other
Mm,
people
love
without
that.
the vest that says do not pet. You
Heavy
know,
petting encouraged.
hugs, free hugs available.
Yeah, we need that on the vest. Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I think just humanity, there is um, so much good in humanity if you just take a little bit of time
I agree.
to find it.
And we need it right now. So it's important to lift that up. That message is so key. And what would you like your legacy to be?
Uh, I would like to be known as someone who was authentic and genuine. A legacy, not with my name on it, but that there are children born in this world who wouldn't have been born if their parent had made that choice that they
Yeah.
had thought about.
Mm,
That they are here because of 988. They are here because their community came alongside of them when they were in the throes of depression and life was hard
yeah.
because life is so hard. And then on my tombstone, I've told my family this. I want my birth date and my death date with an exclamation point in between.
I
Can
love
you
it.
imagine 100 years from now, people walking past that tombstone and they're like, oh, wow, I bet she lived her life.
I love it.
And
That's
so my
brilliant.
husband, I wear this all the time. My husband, I remarried to a fantastic man, and he designed an exclamation point necklace for me. So I wear it all the time. Live
That's
life to the fullest.
girl, took a page out of my book. Yes, here for that. So what is next for you?
Oh, well, I'm writing my book. I have started acting classes
Yeah,
just because I
love it.
can. And then I'm always looking for speaking engagements, whether it's suicide prevention or resilience or the power within us.
Yeah,
That sets my soul on fire to walk alongside people and just be their cheerleader, their emotional support human.
yeah.
Um, and yeah, looking forward to that. And then, of course, in April, I'll become an OMI with our first grandchild.
Yay, that is so exciting. Oh my God, you're gonna have so much fun with that.
Life is good.
Where can people find you?
My website, KristenChristyCares.com. I'm on Instagram, Kristen Christy Cares. And I really on LinkedIn, Kristen Christy. There aren't many Kristen Christies around.
We'll put it in the notes. Not to worry, people will be able to
That's
find you. But
that's for sure. And I would love to connect with people. Again, that is what inspires me is people and what they're doing, and if I can help inspire them and transform them to know that they can do whatever they put their mind to it, as long as they don't do it alone and
yeah,
in a silo. It's
well,
community.
this has been such a joy for me. I've been looking forward to recording this with you for weeks and weeks, and you are just one of my favorite people. So
Uh,
thank you
I feel the
for,
same about you.
well, thank you for sharing your story. It moves me every time, and you're just doing so much good. So, gosh, I just adore you. So,
Thank
thank
you.
you. And
Thank
guys,
you.
if you liked what you heard from Kristen and you like the show, please subscribe to the YouTube channel, tell your friends, go write a 5-star review or Apple or Spotify. It helps us continue the show and get these amazing guests. Thank you for listening, Kristen. Thank you for being a friend. Thank you for, oh, I sound like the Golden Girls. And and thank
I
you
do
for
have the gray
sharing.
hair.
So do I, but you won't see it. But thank you so
Thank you.
much for all you're doing and happy National Resilience Day,
Yes.
everyone. So
March 4th and
forth.
conquer. And hope is not canceled.
Never, never. Guys, enjoy the day, take care of each other, and go lead with heart. Thanks for listening. Are you ready to elevate your leadership style and create an exceptional workplace that stands out from the crowd? I'm here to introduce you to a game-changing resource that will transform the way you lead and shape your company culture. It's time to embrace the power of top-down culture. This practical guide empowers your leadership for lasting success, helping you create a workplace where everyone thrives. Get top-down culture today, and let's reshape the future of leadership together. Thanks for listening to this episode of Heartbeat for Hire. I hope you enjoyed what you heard. If you did, please subscribe to my YouTube channel or consider leaving a 5-star review and a great rating at Spotify or Apple. Thank you so much for your support. Have a great day.